Are you telling me to start?
No, I said it started. It already started. It's all
Oh, we already
staying.
started.
Oh
Goddamn.
no, he's
Well,
he's willing it to work with voice commands. Just start it. Start it.
oh,
Start it.
okay.
Yeah, it's already
I
started.
see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, okay. Well, hello everybody. We are here with Main Stage Wrestling live, not live and not on WERW Real College Radio. Instead, the three of us, myself, Jacy Cola, and Sam Gelfand, and the Great Tigerman. Is that correct, Tiger? Did I get
That
that
is correct. My
100%
new
accurate?
gimmick. Thank you for putting it over.
You're so welcome. Your new gimmick that's lasted almost over a year at this point. We are all back here recording remotely to talk about the wonderful, wonderful week that has transpired in the world of professional wrestling.
Is
Guys,
it that wonderful?
no, and also I couldn't even. Well, actually, I'm gonna reserve passing any judgment as I really didn't consume all that much of this week of pro wrestling. I'd actually be willing to go so far as to say that this is probably the least wrestling I've ever consumed in a given week in the past 10, 11 years.
Good,
So,
it'll be a short show.
yeah, that's what I was hoping. I was thinking that, but then I found out we got to talk about Extreme Rules Horror Show, the horror show at Extreme Rules. So, maybe not. Maybe not. But I got to know because it's been a while since we all were together and since we all last spoke. What's been going on in your guys' lives?
Sam,
Do you
last
want to
week
go
we went
first,
out
Tiger?
into the woods to look for you.
Yeah, Sam, we forgot to tell you too that we were really worried for a while. We actually announced on the show that you had passed away in the woods, and I'm glad to
I,
hear
I
that.
would like to say the rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated.
That's good. That's good. I hate to say that we were responsible for said rumors, but it's a great relief I think to all of us and the entire
Al-
listening audience that you here with us alive.
Also, why the woods? You know I don't go outside.
I believe it was because we received a cryptic message from you in the Discord chat about like someone going into the woods and hunting ducks or something, and
Oh,
so we
oh,
just
it
assumed.
was an Onion article. It was an article from the
Yeah.
Onion that was talking about hunting regulations through the lens of professional wrestling.
Oh, okay. I see. Now I figured it was a sign from you, like telling us, "Hey, come find me. I'm in the woods." And so,
No, it's just a funny thing.
oh, okay. Well, maybe that was Tiger's fault. Actually, I think he started that rumor.
We can always listen
Tiger.
back to the episode last week and to see who started talking
I
about.
don't think that's fair. You get liberties to edit these episodes, so you could have done anything you wanted and doctored that audio. So I don't trust it one bit, not even
Okay,
a little.
I guess that's
Is
But
Tiger
disputable.
fake news?
yes, I think so. I think so. And Tiger, it's something we've discussed a little bit already. It doesn't relate to wrestling per se, but it will have a great impact on the complexion of main stage wrestling over the next few months once school starts back up. But it seems like you're making the decision not to return to Syracuse this fall. Isn't that right?
That seems to be the case as of right now.
As in, you're
That's
going to be doing it remotely, or you're just going to take a gap semester?
I'm just gonna not be alive. No, I'm gonna take classes remotely probably.
Okay. Okay,
Honestly,
that's
I'm
good.
going to be doing the same thing too, but I'll be in Syracuse.
Why would you ever make that decision? Why would you do that to yourself, Sam? What does Syracuse have to offer you as a city?
Because I'm not back home in Florida, that's why.
But why not go back there? Like, I get that it is a hotbed. I get
It is
that.
the COVID capital of the world right now. If Florida was its own country, it would be 8th or ninth in the world in cases.
This is true.
And and they're all concentrated where I live.
Okay.
Again, all factual information. However, if you just stay inside the whole time and you hang out with your family, you should be all right, right?
Yeah, but they don't stay inside.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess
They're
maybe it
already
doesn't make sense.
they're already going to restaurants and stuff. I keep yelling at them.
I mean, to be fair, my family's been going to restaurants for like the past 3 months, so it's tough. It's real tough. Granted, I'm in Texas. I don't know how much better of a state we're in, but it's all okay. It's all
Yeah,
okay.
but you know what? Things are under control well enough here in Syracuse that yesterday I was able to go to the zoo, so that was good.
Hey, that's pretty sick. I didn't even know Syracuse had a zoo.
They have a great zoo actually for the size of the city. They've got red pandas.
Wow, I love
Wow.
red pandas.
Love red pandas. Unfortunately, they didn't come out because it was like 91 degrees outside.
Oh, okay. So technically, you can't confirm they have red pandas, as you did not see
They at
them.
least, well, I can confirm they have a red panda exhibit. The card is subject to
Okay.
change.
Gotcha. That's
Well,
fair.
maybe the
That's
Red
all
Panda
very
didn't
fair.
show up because they paid him not enough. Didn't give
Yeah,
enough
maybe
money.
red pandas weren't supposed to go over.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Also, health concerns.
He
That's a
didn't want
big
to
deal
show
right
up
now
because he
too.
wasn't gonna go over.
That's unfortunate. I'm sorry that you had to experience that, Sam. But where even is the Syracuse Zoo? Like, where in relation to the university is it?
It's northwest. It's in a park. It's about a 12 or 13-minute drive away.
Really? I would
Yeah,
have
it's
assumed it
really
was like in
close.
another
It's
town.
within
That's
No,
crazy.
it's within the city limits. It's really close.
Nice. Well, good for them. Good for them
Oh
for
yeah,
opening
and
back
it
up.
I know it's a 12 or 13-minute drive because I think since the last time we talked, I got my car up here.
Hey, that's pretty sick. That's pretty sick. Oh, that's right, because you died last week, so you weren't here to tell us about that. But you did. You got your car, and now we're gonna be able to just hit the town week in and week out, taking over Syracuse. Main stage is taking over, and Tiger, I
We're gonna
wish
be
you
able
could
to
be here
paper the
for it.
town.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So, is there anything else we wanna get into or talk about before we get into the wild world of pro wrestling, guys?
I mean, at this point, I feel like we need to change the subject of the podcast. Otherwise, people would decide not to show up for it.
I think so too. I'm way more interested in talking about red pandas for an hour than wrestling. Really, truly,
You think a
it's
red panda
rough.
gimmick could get over?
I know it could get over. I'm sure one has in the past already. I don't know who, but I'm sure
Who
it's
would be the
happened.
closest to a red panda?
Ooh,
Fire ant.
Tiger. Who?
Fire ant.
No, he's closest
Oh,
to an ant.
No, but is there a panda gimmick? There's a El Panda Man.
I
there,
know
there,
that
there.
Rebel from TNA was going as Panda Doll for a little bit, but that's
There
Giant Panda, not Red Panda.
also on the West Coast indie scene, there's a guy who just dresses up like a panda and wrestles. I saw a match between him and Luchasaurus once on YouTube, and it was a match.
There, there is in DDT. There's
Oh,
Andre the Giant Panda.
Okay. Yes. Yes. So quite a few pandas. None of them red, unfortunately.
Rocket
It's
Raccoon's
tough.
over, right?
I mean, he was in like 2015. It's
Yeah,
been a while though.
but he's actually a red panda. Do you know that? He's not actually a raccoon.
Wow. Is that canon? Is that a
Yes,
shoot?
that's a shoe, brother. I'm exposing the person behind the gimmick.
God damn. Well, we are reputable and reliable wrestling journalists out there. So if there's any place to break that news, I think we're it. You know. So guys, let's hop into Extreme Rules Horror Show, okay? Because
And hop
I
right back out.
yes, hopefully that's the goal. That's definitely the
I have
goal.
a lot of
So
things to say about this show, because I watched
I
Keep
it.
him
just
to yourself.
yes, please.
Because
Um,
I thought somebody has to do something for this show. Someone has to take a bullet for somebody.
But why
y-
did
y-
that thought cross your mind?
Because otherwise we would have nothing to talk about on this show.
Yeah, but it's like,
mm,
I'm not gonna go out and get the virus just so I can tell you guys what it's like.
Well, I
I
think
would appreciate, however, if you did. That would be very good content for the show, especially if it was like 3 months ago. That would have been perfect.
I think we need to ask you, JC, about
Hmm.
your opinions on the eye for an eye match. Because you seem to be
I'm
the
gonna.
one. You looked forward to this so much. You're hyping this
You know
up
what?
every week. And I want to hear your honest opinion about how it has transpired.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your curiosity about my opinions, and I will confirm that. I will be very honest in saying I was super excited about this match. I was excited about this pay per view. Honestly, I've already told you, Tiger, and it's getting I don't know. I don't want to say it again, but I've had so few days off in the last couple weeks that the one day I had off last week, like it was Sunday. It was Sunday. And normally I want to spend my time off with my family. I want to be doing stuff to just sort of make myself feel. I'm tired. I'm tired. This goes to what I was just saying about having little time off. Point is, I barely had any time off. I had one day off in like the last 20 days, and I chose to watch Extreme Rules Horror Show with it, and it was a mistake. However, Eye for an Eye match was part of that, and I watched it. The match was decent for what it was. I think compared to all the other contests on the show, the bulk of the match was higher quality than most. But then it came time for Rey Mysterio to lose his eye. Okay? And I understand this is old news at this point. I understand that this show was over a week ago at this point. But throughout the course of the match, both these men were attempting to gouge one another's eyes out. And that I loved it. That was the stipulation for the match, and I was glad that they weren't trying to get out of it. I was glad they came up with a batshit idea, and they stuck to it. You know? Just purely and totally, they were going to rip out one another's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we saw.
Yeah, ripping out each other's eyes by using like the end of a candlestick to rip out a person's eye, using the end of a chair to rip off a person's eye, right?
So Tiger, I was going under the thinking that maybe you don't need to necessarily gouge the eye out as much as you just have to make sure that they'll never be able to see out of it again. Because do you remember at SummerSlam a few years ago when I believe it was the Shield versus the Bar, and Cesaro got sent up into the corner, and he came down like mouth first onto the post, and it knocked his teeth up into his gums. I figured there was probably a similar stipulation in place that if your eye gets pushed back far enough in your skull, that counts as losing your eye.
Okay, but how do you explain that the commentator is saying he's trying to rip his eye out when Seth Rollins is trying to staff like a end of a candlestick that's like larger than Rey Mysterio's ear into his eye?
So I would attribute that probably more to the incompetence of the broadcasters than I would the wrestlers.
All right.
Yes.
I would attribute that to splinters.
But because technically you do have to pull out splinters, right? You're not just going to let it sit there and get infected in your eye. So when you pull that out, the eye is going to pop out with it.
It's a blunt object.
I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the idea that two competitors agreed to a match where one of them would lose an eye. And I'm thinking, like, you know how in Mexico, in Lucha, if someone loses a mask, often there comes with a very big payday to make up for the fact that their career has just, been irreparably altered.
Okay.
I wonder if they had to offer Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins a boatload of money in order to agree to possibly lose an eye.
I would hope so, or maybe at least like some insurance in place that because I don't think you offer the money outright up front, right? Because if you end up being the victor of the match and you don't lose an eye, I mean, what a waste of money that is for WWE. But I think sort of that just insurance policy of if I do lose an eye, then you guys
you'll get a big payout.
Yeah, I think that's a lot more fair to look at it.
Because, I mean, like, it's not even like you're giving up your eye for an incredible... Like, it's not WrestleMania. It's frickin' Extreme Rules.
No, you're incorrect there. It was the horror show at Extreme Rules Horror Show, Sam. Bite your tongue.
Of course. Well, I mean, would you put that on the same level as, like, WrestleMania?
I would, because I imagine this pay-per-view is going to go down in history, and I imagine it's going to set a precedent for years to come for future horror shows, and this was the very first, Like, I've gone back and I've watched the very first WrestleMania, a very, very great show,
And so, you went ahead and watched the very first horror show.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That is exactly right.
And boy, was that title apt.
I think that your hypothesis, JC, that it's also okay to destroy your opponent's eyeball, fell apart. When in the end, it was revealed that these wrestlers actually exist in a parallel universe in which getting stumped face down onto a surface will make your eye pop out of your skull. Okay? That's what this has revealed to us.
No, I think what it's revealed is that Seth Rollins went into this with a plan. He came into this match with a clear plan and a clear strategy, and he knew how to exactly line up a struggling Rey Mysterio, line up his face, line up his visage, right along the corner of a steel step in such a way, with such an angle, that if he stomps down on the back of his head, the eye pops out. I think that's what it proves.
Onto a sharp... The one time the eye hits a sharp object, it popped out
Mm-hmm.
instead of went in. So, you know what? I 10 out of 10. Okay. The other thing is,
I'm wondering now if I'm imagining Seth Rollins is doing like MythBusters type experiments in his free time leading up to this. He's got like ballistics gel, and he's writing stuff down on a clipboard, and he's trying to find that exact angle, exactly what he's got to do to pop the eye out.
I think that's probably why Austin Theory hasn't been around in like 3 weeks. He was just the casualty of the experiment.
Because he was the buster to that experiment.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's very unfortunate.
we have to talk about that after Rey Mysterio starts holding a vague white ball-shaped thing to his face and started screaming in agony on the ground, and the medical team came. Seth starts puking onto the ground.
Yep. My
And
favorite.
everybody enjoyed that, right? You gotta have enjoyed that, Jason.
Everyone loves that spot.
Yeah, I think it was. I love too how they referenced it on SmackDown, and when Miz and Morrison were rating things on a sickness scale of 1 to 5, Seth Rollins pukes. It was very funny, is the thing. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So also at the horror stream at Extreme Rules, sorry, before we move on from Seth Rollins and the eye for an eye match, I think the highlight of the entire contest came at the very end after the bell was rung, and we got to see coming to the rescue, the knight in shining armor, Dominic Mysterio joining his father, trying to help him pop his eye back into place. I think it was a beautiful father-son moment
Using
that
his
can't
fingers.
be overlooked. Yes. Yeah. So I think it's worth noting how wonderful a son Dominic is, and just how grateful Ray must be to have someone like that in his life, and to know that he's responsible for that. At least partially responsible.
Every son wants to go up to their father and say, "Come on, let's play ball." Unfortunately, Dominic wasn't specific enough.
This is very true. This is very true. It was beautiful.
The one good thing I'll say about this match is the way Seth sold the 619 in this match, because the 619 usually is a very cartoony move. Like, it's effective. It's like the rock bottom. it's like you have to sort of suspend your disbelief for somebody to be run, and then they just lose gravity, complete control of their body, and they just always fell onto the ropes. And then when they get hit by the double legs of the 619, they just fall back and they sell, and they fall down on the ground, they hit a splash. But in this one, Seth sort of just slumped down through the ropes after he got hit by the 619, which was a realistic sell of it. I guess nobody's ever done it like that before, so good job, Seth.
Yes, really added to the whole entire show. I think it brought it up at least half a star, so
yeah,
it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's already 3 stars for Rey Mysterio losing a 6-1 eye.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. But again, beyond the eye for an eye match, so much else went down at the horror show at Extreme Rules, including the fact that we now have newly crowned SmackDown Tag Team Champions, and that of the artists Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro.
Cesaro won was a Ricola bomb, and Jacy, if you had watched this week's match of the week, you would have seen him win with another Ricola bomb.
Okay,
phenomenal Ricola bomb.
When I am getting home at 10 p.m. every night, every day of the week, and I have the option to either go to sleep or watch more professional wrestling, at this point in my life, almost 20 years of age, it's just I think I've come to a place where the sleep it ranks higher for me, It's unfortunate, and I apologize for it, but watching PWG from 12 years ago just isn't on top of my priority list when it probably should be. Oh, was it? Well, see, I'm even less of a fan, It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was a great match. It was phenomenal.
The New Day one or the one from Chicago?
No, the match of the week.
Oh, okay.
The New Day one was average. I like the finish.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I honestly, I did enjoy the match for what it was. I think in front of a crowd it would have been really fun, because the whole entire match was based around getting your opponent through a table, as like a tables match should be, but they found some really cool and interesting ways to tease that spot that in all the years I've been watching I hadn't seen before. So I enjoyed it for like being sort of innovative and just it was fun to watch. It wasn't this amazing match, but it was a nice open to the show, and I found it interesting that we have some new champions as well, which we can talk a little bit more about later too when we talk about SmackDown from this week.
Also,
But looking further,
this is the last match on this show. I think that's not a fuck finish.
and it was also the opening match, so
okay,
that's important too.
Yeah. So when I said last week's show, I said it's gonna be Extreme Rules, and every match is gonna have a fuck finish because it's Extreme Rules. That's the theme of the pay-per-view. I didn't mean it, but here we are. Right?
Yeah, Sam, I don't know if you were privy to that conversation, but for we were running down the match and we were trying to make our predictions, and Tiger, with almost every single contest, came up with some finish involving some shenanigans, which ultimately came to light. They came to pass.
Tiger, you hold too much power.
No, I did win $20, right? When we were drawing for the.
That's true. That's very true.
Tiger has Vince McMahon's ear.
Goddamn. Well, a man who I imagine does not have the ear of Vince McMahon comes in the United States champion, Apollo, who was supposed to have a match on this card and was advertised heavily on the poster for Extreme Rules. Very nice poster, by the way. But I guess I missed this. It was again, the show was a week ago at the time of this recording, so I don't remember all that much. But apparently Apollo never even came out, and MVP just declared himself champion. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
And then left was the...
He declared himself champion, and they let him get away with it.
He's now United States champion. So, there we go.
Like, it's one thing to do like a Taz FTW championship kind of thing, where it's like, I'm the champion, but then in the back, they're like, but no, actually, you're not. Apollo still is. But no, they gave him the championship. He's holding the belt. It's his.
Good for him. You know, that's a big accomplishment. MVP, in my mind, is one of those sort of champions that's synonymous with that title, for me at least, from that time period of like 2010 or so. So if anyone can do it, Montel Vontavious Porter's the man. And
no, I mean, MVP is the man, but at the same time, I would like to declare that I am the new Intercontinental Champion.
Fuck. God, so that has some heavy implications for the title match this coming Friday on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, well, if they can drag me out of my apartment, well, actually, I don't even have to compete for it, now that I think about it, because someone else can just declare that they're the new IC champion.
Oh, damn. Wow, this is tough.
This would not actually be the first, or be the last time somebody just declares themselves champion on this show.
Nope, because we got to watch Asuka versus Sasha Banks, and a match I was pretty excited for, and a match that was, from my recollection, decent. Mm-hmm. I don't remember it being bad. I remember Sasha like almost dying a couple times, but that's literally every match she has.
Yeah, that's every time.
Yeah, but at one point at the end of the match, the referee got knocked out. Bayley put on his T-shirt and counted the pin for Sasha to become the new Raw Women's Champion.
The ring bell guy just rings the bell, and the announcer just says champion, right? The announcers declare them champion, right? Yeah.
Yep, and then I mean, I guess she's champ. Apparently, Stephanie McMahon showed up on the video screen on Raw to be like, "Hey, that's not your title. Give it back." And then Sasha was like, "No," but I didn't watch that, fortunately. So I hope my interpretation of the results I read are correct. I really hope so. But
no,
I
believe you are correct. But like, so let's continue on that train of thought, right? So if you declare yourself champion, you become champion. Is the key to becoming a referee simply to own a striped shirt?
Ooh. Well, I mean,
do you not have to be a licensed referee anymore? Do you not have to be trained, or do you not have to be sanctioned by the company itself? As long as you are in possession of a referee shirt, you get to count a pin?
This is tough. I think it requires
I think back to ECW One Night Stand 2006, where Paul Heyman counted the pin for that. Even though he's not a referee, but it counted because he's the owner of the company.
Yeah.
I think we're probably
he can sanction himself as a referee, but can Bayley sanction herself as a referee?
Yeah, I think we're missing some information and maybe drawing some pretty hasty conclusions in the fact that we have no clarification, we have no confirmation as to whether or not Bailey is a licensed official, you know? So for us to come out here and say,
Oh,
"Oh,
that's true.
Bailey
That's
wasn't
true.
qualified," I mean, we don't know that,
Yeah,
right?
we also don't know if MVP is a licensed official or not.
Also true.
For
Also true.
for all intents and purposes, he might be the booker of this show, so of course he can just declare himself champion.
So I think maybe we'll have to get an update on that next week when we do a bit more research. But for the time being, I think Sasha is the official champion, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It's Stephanie
Cool.
McMahon. Whatever she says doesn't count either.
No, fuck her. Next up on the card, we got to watch the Universal Champion Drew McIntyre face off against the challenging Dolph Ziggler in a match where Dolph got to choose the stipulation literally seconds prior to the bell ringing. And the stipulation he chose was, this is an Extreme Rules match, but for me only. So the basis is Dolph can use weapons and Dolph can do anything he wants, but Drew has to follow the rules of a regular wrestling match. And then also, if he gets counted out or disqualified, Dolph gets the title. So, if there was ever a time for Dolph to get this championship, this would be it. But nope, we kept it on Drew, and I guess Dolph is already getting another title match, so that's cool. Great
Dolph
stuff.
That's cool.
got the fuck beat out of him, despite being able to choose literally any match type, and this man said it's gonna be Extreme Rules, and he didn't have anyone to come down. He could have had 30 dudes come out and beat the fuck out of Drew and just pin 1, 2, 3, but no, it's just 1-on-1.
He could have put on a
If you
referee
could-
shirt and then declared himself the winner.
Exactly.
Why couldn't he just he could choose any stipulation. He could be like, this is a Dolph Ziggler wins match.
Yeah, and I don't know if you listen to the
The
show, Sam.
stipulation is Dolph Ziggler wins.
I don't know if you listened to the show, Sam. I assume you did not last week. But I actually had the idea in which Dolph Ziggler says it's going to be a 2-on-1 match. Actually, Drew, I'm going to choose a partner for you, and you two are going to fight me. And the partner that he chose for Drew is going to be Heath. And Heath is going to lie down for Dolph.
It'd be sick.
You know, I could see that like on Raw. I don't think I could see that in the middle or in the second main event of Extreme Rules.
I know, on the biggest show, on the biggest match of the year, you know, a horror show at Extreme Rules. You couldn't have a match like that. Tiger, it's really, you should put respect on the name of Extreme Rules Horror Show.
Dolph
Uh-huh.
Dolph got the shit beat out of him and lost. So now I cannot wait. If there's ever a New Japan WWE crossover, I want to see Dolph fight Hiroki Goto for the winner gets some self-respect match.
Remember that time
Actually,
Triple
that
H,
would be a really good match.
Triple H promised Luke Harper he could go over to New Japan for like a month?
What? Are
No,
you serious?
okay.
Is that
Yeah,
real?
that was, yeah. When he was on the Jericho podcast when he first got released, he was
Oh.
saying how when like they didn't have anything for him to do on the main roster, Luke Harper was like, "Hey, can I do stuff in NXT?" And Triple H was like, maybe, but we're thinking maybe we can send you to New Japan." And then he never heard anything about it in the future. And then Chris Jericho got so upset. He was like, "Who the fuck does Triple H know in New Japan?" And then they moved on. And it was great. It was great stuff.
Triple H
But-
knows Jushin Thunder like.
I guess so.
Like, I mean,
guess
yeah,
so.
I mean, you can always talk to someone. First of all, I'm sure that they have connections because they've had to negotiate with talent before. And even so, like, I mean, we know that, say, someone like William Regal has connections to Japan. So there's always someone in the office who knows someone over there, probably.
Maybe so. Maybe so. But I think it's time we move on to the main event of the horror show
Although,
at
do you
Extreme
think-
Rules.
Do you think that if Triple H calls New Japan, do you think that New Japan is going to decline the phone call?
I would hope so. honestly. Just Evil's champion. They're set. Like things are perfect there right now.
Everything is now evil.
We don't need Raul Mendoza showing up and causing havoc. I think we're all set.
I think we
we're
need Dolph
all
Ziggler
set.
in New Japan.
Oh boy.
Dolph Ziggler, new member of Bullet Club.
Oh, I could see that so easily too. That's gross.
Honestly, he'd probably kill it.
You're probably the only person who's defending Dolph Ziggler, Sam.
Dolph Ziggler he's a great wrestler. He's used the exact same character of having no character for the past 10 years or so.
The thing is, I'm sympathetic to Sam's position because he did start watching wrestling at the peak of Dolph Ziggler's career. So it's like, when that's what you come in with, it's like I see it. Like I came in when Jeff Hardy was champion. So in my mind, I'm thinking Jeff Hardy should be world champion right now, when instead he's putting on hats and spontaneously appearing in face paint in the middle of a bar. And that statement probably means nothing to the two of you, but it happened. It happened last night on SmackDown.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I'm kind of tired of Dolph Ziggler as well at this point. I think everyone is. But it doesn't change the fact that I've seen how great of a wrestler he can be, especially considering we've pretty much only seen him in the WWE style, quote-unquote. And I'm sure if he could just find some way to shake things up, I'm sure that he could be in a lot better position than he already is. Although I personally think he could probably become a really good commentator.
Probably. But I think what he needs to rejuvenate his career is probably a new intro to his theme song. Like maybe we bring back the record scratch. And
Bullet Club for live.
Can you imagine if the glass shatters and then it's "I'm here to show the world"?
That'd be perfect. I would love that. But unfortunately,
oh my god.
There was no glass shattering in the main event of Extreme Rules Horror Show. Instead, we got to witness the Universal Championship contest between Bray Wyatt / The Fiend /
spoilers.
Bray Wyatt. Like, there were 3 versions of Bray Wyatt in this match, I guess. Or maybe there were 2. I don't remember. He fought Braun Strowman, big boy, for the title, starting in a swamp. It's a swamp fight, so I guess that makes sense. And
There's plenty of swamp down in Orlando.
Yes, and there was plenty of swamp in this contest, and I didn't like it.
That's the last thing I want in my contests is swamp.
Braun was attacked by a masked man who turned out to be Braun.
Yes, he was. Braun also threw a defenseless man into a fire, which did you? I mean, that happened.
Also, Alexa Bliss showed up. Alexa Bliss showed up.
Conspiracy theory now.
Oh, go ahead.
So, I don't know if you guys know this, but back in the 90s, when when Scott Hall pitched the Razor Ramon character, Vince McMahon thought it was amazing because he had never seen Scarface, which, of course, was like the biggest movie of the last 5 years. It turns out that Vince McMahon just doesn't have time to watch any sort of pop culture that isn't wrestling because of how much time it takes for him to run the company and how engrossed he is in the product. So my theory is that prior to this pay-per-view, prior to the swamp match, someone showed Vince McMahon Star Wars Episode 5.
Ooh, I see.
It would explain why they're in a swamp. It would explain, the Braun attacking Braun. It's like Luke fighting Darth Vader that's actually Luke in the cave with Yoda, and the Alexa Bliss as a Force ghost.
I would like to point out that in your theory, you just referred to pro wrestling as being pop culture, which is very far from the truth.
Perhaps it once was.
Okay. But also, I thought that it was all leading up to you saying you didn't think Vince has ever seen Friday the 13th, because at the end of the match, they put up the closing credits. It looks like everything's all over, and then the Fiend reappears and he murders Braun Strowman by tossing him into a swamp.
Wow, you're telling me Vince has never seen NXT TakeOver?
Oh. When did that happen? What takeover? What I can't. My memory.
First time
someone got thrown into a swamp.
No, I mean the ending of putting up the credits and then a psych. They did that first in NXT, right?
Oh, when Ciampa turned
Yeah.
on Gargano,
Yeah.
that's right. I forgot. There's no way he saw that. You're right. But okay. Also, I think the last thing I want to point out about this swamp match is the fact that at one point Bray Wyatt was holding Braun hostage in like a little shack, and I was watching this match, the swamp fight, with my sister, my parents, and one of my mom's friends, and all three of them, or all four of them rather, much less familiar with pro wrestling than I am. They couldn't get over the fact, like they were pretty interested in the match up until this point, when they saw that the chains were just sitting on top of Braun Strowman's lap, and they clearly were not tied together. He clearly was not restrained, but he just had some chains sitting gently upon his lap, and it broke all of their level of engagement, their investment. It was unfortunate. It was very
It's
unfortunate.
added to the show. You could have just had one shot where he was chained, and the second one where he's not. He breaks free.
Show him in one shot where he's chained, and then do the rest from like the chest up. You know,
Exactly.
you don't even have to show the
honestly.
chains.
That's how establishing shots work. See,
But
WWE loves to say that they have the best production in the world. They're the best. They have the best setup. They do everything in detail, but they're like anal about things that don't actually matter when overall the product is unpleasant to watch. So I don't know if they can say they have the best production in all of wrestling.
I think they have the best production for what their goals are, if that makes sense. Like,
Which is
wrestling
petty
has become,
and not useful.
yeah, wrestling has become so specific, and it's developed so much of its own niche culture with all its nuances and little quirks that those quirks have been around for so many years that they've just been substantiated and substantiated and substantiated to the point where now, instead of just trying to attract a general fan base and trying to appeal to a regular audience, they're so hyper focused on checking off all these specific wrestling boxes that have been cultivated over the past like 50 years. And I hope what I just said makes sense.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it
No,
does.
it
Okay.
does, yeah.
But I hope nuance is what they were going for, because they didn't get any of that. So in this match, so
No, no, there was not. But that was the horror show at Extreme Rules. And I also will say that the very same day this show took place, I made a point of packing up over 300, about 300 to 400 of my wrestling action figures, and putting them in a box and stuffing them into the back of my closet. So there's much
Wow.
less wrestling memorabilia in my room now.
Are you
so that's
finally
nice.
growing up, dude?
Nah, I still got. I still got like 60 or so on my top shelf. You know, I picked out some of my favorite figures, so I'm down to one shelf of wrestling figures, and so I still am. Like, if someone were to enter my room for the first time, I'd still appear to be as big a man-child as ever, but I think less so than if they were to enter 8 days ago.
You have to stay
So
consistent with your character.
You
know?
do, you do. It's
Yeah.
a slow build. It's a slow build.
I mean, it
But-
comes, it comes time for that eventually. I mean, up until I was like 19, my bedroom at my dad's house was still painted in New York Mets colors. It was real embarrassing when I had my girlfriend over for the first time.
Like, I'm not worried about embarrassment in that respect, because I imagine any significant other I have, it's gonna have to be very clear and very on the table that wrestling is a part of my life, right? And if that means I have these shirtless men like that are 6 inches tall hanging out in my room, so be it. That's part of me. But it's more just the fact that I don't want to be staring at wrestling every minute of every day. It doesn't make me happy. Okay, it's just I don't need all them there. It's okay. I can do with a few less.
If you're into embarrassment and humiliation, then everything will work out for you. You know, you don't have to worry about anything.
I think so.
Although I do want to ask, you said you watched the main event with other members of your family who aren't into wrestling. How do you get people who aren't into wrestling to actually watch wrestling with you?
Well, my dad watches it. My dad watches it on a consistent basis, but he's like he's not on the internet as much, so he's not paying attention to all the rumors. Like, he has a very cool and unique perspective because he watches all the shows. He watches Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and AEW, but he avoids the internet. Like, he doesn't see the opinions that other people have.
So he can actually form his own opinions. Incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So it's cool, like, seeing what he thinks about stuff. But my mom and my sister are just very peripheral fans because I've been watching it for the past decade, and so like they have their favorites, and they'll they'll watch for the novelty of it. So like my sister will come over to watch the pay-per-views, but not the weekly shows. And when she watches the pay-per-views, half the time she's on her phone and she'll look up every once in a while. But that's how I get them to watch. And then the other person was just because they're my mom's friend and she just wanted to come over to hang out and wrestling happened to be on. So it's not like I was convincing these people. I was galvanizing them into being interested in the pro wrestling.
She wanted to leave the whole time, but it was just she thought it would be impolite.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but like I've had for so long picked out like a match that I use to show people when they're watching wrestling for the first time. But I'm thinking that it may be time to change it because I've realized the past few times I've tried to show this to people that it's much easier to get people into it with a comedy match than it is like an actually really good classic.
Yeah.
Because I used to use Cedric Alexander versus Kota Ibushi from the Cruiserweight Classic, which is just an incredible match. But then, like, I tried showing that to my girlfriend, and she was okay, not really interested. And then I showed her Invisible Man versus Invisible Stan.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
and she loved it.
Are you saying that's not a classic? The triple burning
No, it is
hammer?
a classic.
Okay, good.
But I'm saying that like that was what got her to actually give it a shot when she realized just how insane it can be.
When she realized there was no wrestling in this wrestling match, she loved it.
That was perfect. So I've
gone back and forth with her because she is a performance artist,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people in wrestling will claim that wrestling is performance art, but they don't actually watch performance art itself.
Show her Cara Noir versus Ilya Dragunov. 2 out of 3 falls.
So, like, she doesn't, as the actual professional performance artist here, she
Yeah.
doesn't believe that it is performance art. She thinks it's a performance, but she wouldn't call it art.
Yeah, I mean,
But
that's
she did,
a bit.
But she did think, actually, that Invisible Man versus Invisible Stan was the closest thing to performance art that she's seen in wrestling.
Gotcha.
Just because
I
of
mean,
the
Bryce
incredible thing
Remsburg,
that Bryce
performance
Remsburg put
artist.
on.
this isn't like a maverick statement, but the idea that it's not an art is fair, but the idea that it's not a sport is even fairer. So it's in that middle ground. It's a hybrid between the two that no one really likes to acknowledge, and that's where we're at.
What is it?
And
what is wrestling?
it's
Sports
in that
entertainment.
gray area. Yeah.
Okay.
It's exactly that.
I think
But
we should do a thing that makes every show great, which is give out ratings to stuff right now. Okay, we just start giving out ratings to every segment that we talk about, and the only 2 criteria are this is wrestling or this is not wrestling.
oh, so no stars?
That's it. No, there's 2.
Oh.
Is this wrestling?
Okay.
You can say this is not wrestling, or you can say this is
Okay.
wrestling, and that's it.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. I think that's a wonderful idea, and I will mark it down in my notes so I don't forget. This is. There we go. But
we will consider your idea. We will put it on the fridge so everyone
yeah, that's right. That's right. But as far as attracting new fans and getting them to watch pro wrestling, I've realized that it's not the type of entertainment that you're gonna drag in a new fan by showing them like a good niche pro wrestling match, right? Like Kota Ibushi and Cedric Alexander, awesome match. But if you show that to someone coming in without any prior reference, it's gonna mean nothing to them, right? So it's I think for someone to develop into an actual fan of pro wrestling, it needs to be very organic, and it just needs to happen over time. And like, because when you try to force it, it's not gonna work, unless it's with a little kid, and then you just show them Royal Rumble matches and ladder matches, and then they start liking it. Otherwise, though, it's a lost cause.
Wow, I feel like we're stuck in this.
I think the biggest key I found is the problem is that, you know, wrestling matches usually start a little slow because you got to build up to the high spots towards the end. But the quicker it builds up, the easier time you have showing someone the match itself. Because I've noticed, like, when I've tried to show people in the past, like Kota Ibushi versus Cedric Alexander starts off with a lot of chain wrestling, and it's very good chain wrestling, but it loses their attention because they're like, this is boring. But they get more interested in the high spots later. So I guess if I wanted to find a straight wrestling match to get people into, it'd need to be one that starts off right off the bat.
Yeah, I'd look to Lucha Underground for that. You know, I think they probably have a
look to Lucha
couple.
Underground for everything.
This is fair. I need to watch that again. I need to stop watching everything except for AEW, maybe one NXT match a week, and then just rewatch Lucha Underground over and over again.
Mm-hmm. And you might actually see some.
Has actually been pretty good.
You might actually see some real eyeball destruction in Lucha Underground.
Oh, maybe so. Maybe so. But
Brian
let's go on.
Killed a guy. So did Matanza. Matanza killed several.
Yes. Also, Mil Muertes killed a man in one of the comic books, which is also important and worth mentioning.
It's canon.
And Taya killed a couple of snakes.
Yes. Also true. But let's get into something that's actually happened in the past 7 days of wrestling. Because as we established, the horror show at Extreme Rules was beyond a week now, or at least at the time this is uploaded. So let's look back to Raw from just a few days ago. A show that I didn't watch because I got home late and I didn't want to watch it. And I didn't want to watch it before I went to work the next day because it's 3 hours long and it's Raw. So I had my dad watch it because he watched it before I got home. And then he was like, I asked him, is there anything I should check out? Is there anything worth noting? And he was like, yeah, Mustafa Ali came back and they're letting him be called Mustafa again. And so I watched that on YouTube and it was nice. I liked it. And Mustafa won.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say about Raw. Anything you guys got?
Did they say anything about MVP? Was that legal or not?
It's legal. Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to remind you,
U.S. champion.
I didn't even catch that part of Extreme Rules. I don't know what I was doing, but I missed it. So I wasn't even thinking about that at the time I watched it on YouTube. So
he came out with a championship. They billed him as a U.S. champion. So
okay.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. Then we can turn our attention to what happened on NXT this week, which I think the most noticeable sort of news coming out of that show is the fact that Keith Lee, just about a week or two after becoming a dual champion with the North American and NXT titles, has decided to relinquish the former and that of the North American Championship in order to put more focus on what's more important at the moment, put more focus on that main title and open up some opportunities for some guys underneath him. And that set off the spark for a tournament now to determine the new North American champion, for which there are a number of number one contenders matches that are taking place now. The first of which, the first competitor to qualify for that contest is Jonah Rock, which I was thoroughly surprised by.
Nice.
Don't you mean Bronson Reed?
Yes, Bronson Reed. That's my bad. You know what's still funny in 2020? When people call themselves a thick boy. That's very funny, especially when they spell it with an I.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't get old in 2018.
It's still fresh.
Yep. Very cool.
So can we expect Shane Thorne to win this tournament?
What was that?
Can we expect Shane Thorne to win this tournament?
Oh, I hope so. That'd be incredible. I would really love that. And what were you saying, Sam?
I'll say it once, I'll say it again. If you win 2 championships, you don't relinquish one. You
relinquish
you
2.
fight for both of them in 2 separate matches.
I guess
you have to defend both of them, and you have to defend one in one match and the other in one match, and you have to compete twice on the same pay-per-view. That's how it works.
That's what Kurt Angle did. He lost all of his matches.
Yeah, exactly. No, he
lost all his matches.
He retained the World Championship. He lost the X Division and the Tag Championships.
Poor Kurt. Poor Kurt. But I'm cool with him relinquishing.
3 great performances.
I am very cool with him relinquishing it. I'm also really cool with the match we got later on in the night when we saw Dominik Dijakovic fight Karrion Kross. I think the very obvious path here is Karrion is going on to the feud with Keith Lee. And part of inciting the rage of the NXT champion at the moment, is targeting his best friend, who is, I would assume, Dominik Dijakovic. And they had a really good match where Dominik just got killed. And he is so good for, like, as big as he is and how non-traditional of a wrestler Dominik Dijakovic is. He is so good at just making his body look like a corpse, and it's incredible. And they had a cool little spot where Dominik was asking Keith Lee not to get involved in the match because Keith Lee came out to ringside at one point after he realized that Karrion Kross was trying to murder the man. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Is it like the Cody throwing the towel moment?
Um, uh, sort of like that's what it's comparable to, I guess, but way more brutal in the sense that before Keith Lee came out, the sort of inciting factor was that Karrion Kross set up Dominik Dijakovic's head between the steps, like the steel steps and the ring post,
Mm-hmm.
and then he like started kicking it multiple times, and it looked so good and so horrible that it made it feel a lot more authentic, which I thought was cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he hit
Yeah.
any backdrop drivers in this match?
Good question. I don't have the same eye that you do for back at drop drivers, Tiger, so I don't want to lie to you and say I know there were a couple or there were none because I haven't acquired that information. I haven't made notes about it, and I am sincerely apologetic.
Don't be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So that was
You've released
NXT
him.
this week. Yes. That was NXT. Let's move stations over to TNT to see what was happening on Dynamite as the show opened up with Cody's TNT Championship Open Invitational, whatever you want to call it, where Eddie Kingston came out making his AEW debut, challenging Cody to a no disqualification match for the title. And I assume that both of you guys saw this because it was really cool. And
Eddie Kingston's a phenomenal promo. I've loved him in NWA. And they put on a really good match too. But Kingston, his promos are so damn good.
yeah, I thought it was really sick.
Almost Scott Steiner-esque promo, Eddie Kingston.
If Scott Steiner could devote as much mental energy to making sure that what he said made sense as he does the energy and presence that he gives with his promos, then it would be Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, that's correct. But part of the charm of Scott Steiner is making no sense, so it's different.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can think of Scott Steiner's brain on promos kind of like a computer. It's got to devote its CPU cores to different areas, and there's just not enough to juggle. So it just goes all in on doing one thing and kind of lets the other go by. You'll get the speeds will slow down a little bit. It'll stutter, but it'll run the program.
Poor Scott. But Eddie Kingston was firing on full gear. Everything was fresh and ready to go.
Full gear.
What was that? Full gear. Oh no. Everything off all cylinders is what I meant to say. I'm a bad speaker. But the basis of his promo was just that, Cody, you've been out here and defending your title every week against little kids. They're all young people that you're taking advantage of. Why don't you fight a veteran like me? And then he was like, also, you're a bitch. Let's fight in a street fight. And then Cody was like, oh, okay. And then they fought. And again, it was a cool match.
Cody,
Eddie
what
Kingston
a rational guy that everybody can get behind.
I think it's just undisputed at this point that Cody is no longer a good guy. And I pray to God that this was intentional.
Did you see what he said?
What did he say? About not being a heel or a baby?
Yeah, Disco Inferno on his podcast said he's confused about whether or not you're supposed to cheer for Cody or not. And Cody said, I'm neither a heel nor a face. Good luck with that, because WCW really proved that's the way to go with wrestling.
I mean, it worked with Becky like a year ago, so fair on him.
There's a place for tweeners. But I'm not sure that it's in Cody's place right now.
No, but I also think that tweet was very much in character of this new version of Cody, who is clearly supposed to be unlikable. So I think it's okay.
Also, all of the characters, all of the bigger names in this company are not baby faces. Or no longer baby faces, because it's like, oh, Kenny started beating up children on TV. So
How
pay per
dare he?
view. So he's no longer a babyface. Okay, Cody. Cody starts cheating of his championship matches and only picks young people that he can take advantage of. He's not a babyface, right? And the Bucks.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Bucks are ever supposed to be baby faces, but Hammond Page is not really a baby face.
How
John
dare you?
Moxley is a psychopath. Yeah, all these big names in
believe-
AEW, they're all good baby faces.
I believe
Well,
you meant
it's
lunatic, not psychopath. But continue.
wacky.
Wacky
Yes,
lie.
he was a very wacky
Um,
lunatic.
but it's an easy trap to fall under, or to succumb to, because we kind of have it in this in our minds that there's only one way that someone can be a good guy, but there's all these different ways to be a bad guy. And so anytime you try to give someone more character, they tend to walk more of a heelish line. But there's not enough baby faces in wrestling, in my opinion. You can have multiple ways to have a good guy. It's just that they only ever present one to us.
I think Cody. The problem is Cody is he can be a complicated character. For example, he has a championship now, and he might be a face and still wants to hold on to his championship. So he might unconsciously or consciously pick opponents that he thinks he can beat, and that's fine. But as long as you leave it out of the ring, and not start cheating in the ring, that's fine. You can pick whoever you want. If it's someone you think you will beat, that's fine. But you cheat outside the ring and you cheat inside the ring. That makes you a heel. You're not a babyface. So stop trying to shake people's hands after you
I don't know.
beat them.
I feel like we're being very critical of all this about like there not being pure enough baby faces or heels, but AEW has been by far the show I have enjoyed most out of all wrestling television in the past
Oh
few
yes,
months.
absolutely.
And so if even if there aren't like these clear like because who are the baby faces that are the pure absolute good guys right now in AEW? You have like Orange Cassidy, you maybe Darby Allin, Jungle
Jungle
Boy.
Boy.
Yeah. So like you have those guys and but I think that's okay that you don't have like a Kenny Omega as your John Cena or something like that because the show is enjoyable. Because
Okay.
yeah, sure, Hangman's a good guy. I'd say he's a good guy, but it's also
Yeah.
okay and compelling that he's hanging out with FTR. So I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing if maybe you're watching for the first time and you have no
Yeah.
clue what's going on. But that's not what I'm doing. So
I
I'm selfish.
I just want to
I
say
mean,
that
no one ever said that.
it,
No
it,
one ever said that good guys only have to hang out with good guys. Anti-heroes are a thing.
I mean
We haven't.
Sting and
It's funny after Steve Austin is like the arguably the most successful professional wrestler of all time, at least in terms of pop culture. Maybe Hulk Hogan, but Steve Austin is the pinnacle of an anti-hero. And it's not something we haven't seen it too often ever since then.
Very fair.
I
But
think
also,
it works because like Sting and Lex Luger, like Lex Luger is obviously a heel. Well, Sting tries to be his friend, and even when Liger fully turns heel, he doesn't turn on Sting, and when he starts having like beat down some people, when Sting comes out, he'll be like, okay, I'll tune it down, you know. So it's
Yeah,
not,
I always enjoyed their chemistry. That was always really good little character work they did.
that's really awesome. But like, okay, here's just the thing though, is that in a fake sport where really there's no competitiveness, I'd rather be able to know who I'm supposed to cheer for. It's just me.
I don't know. I'll figure it out on my own. I'll choose the people I like more. Yeah, like I don't need them to tell me, "Hey, who cheer." Maybe you were being facetious, Tiger. I joined that statement that you were making about halfway through because I was thinking about Lex Luger. Because I know a few weeks ago we said that we wanted to be a manager in AEW, and I think we said we wanted to manage Wardlow, but I can't remember for sure.
That wouldn't be a bad pairing.
No,
No,
I
no,
think it'd be sick.
Tiger's being serious though. Like there was this really cool dynamic in the early '90s between Sting and Lex Luger, where they remained friends and even tagged, despite the fact that Sting was always super face and Luger turned heel. And
Gotcha.
like when Sting would come around, Lex Luger would turn down his heelness because he knew that his friend would be disappointed in him if he saw.
Oh, okay. That's pretty
And
funny.
even when he was like fully healed, when Sting comes out, he's like, "Hey, dude, you should stop." Like he was like locking a submission on dude post match, and Sting's like, "Hey," it comes down, it's like, "Hey, you should stop," and he does stop. So
Gotcha.
So like even though
Gotcha.
he's a bad guy, like he respects his friend more than anything. And I like it's not something you see often, and I've just really enjoyed that kind of chemistry.
and of course this money storyline, WCW did nothing with it, and instead have them both join the NWO, and that's it. That's the
That's it.
That's how to do business, man. That's how to do business. But AEW did a bit of their own business this past Wednesday when they pitted the Young Bucks against the Butcher and the Blade in a Falls Count Anywhere contest that was so good and leaps and bounds by far the best Butcher and Blade match since they've joined AEW. I hope you guys watched it because it was a really fun match. The Butcher is in insane shape, way better than I ever thought he was in. He went full out. He took his entire shirt off this match. I was impressed. And then the Blade at one point got sent up an escalator, and it was beautiful.
by full.
Unfortunately, go
Sorry,
ahead.
by full out, do you mean all in?
Oh my. No, I don't.
Oh,
The pay-per-view's called All Out now.
that's called
All In was a
Um,
one-time event, like involving Ring of Honor. We don't talk about that anymore.
Yeah, that's yesterday's news, but fortunately I didn't get to see the match. But I'm always a big Butcher and Blade fan because I think the Butcher is Andy Williams, right? I always get confused
Yes.
between the two. Yeah, Andy Williams I will always be a huge fan of because his band put out the best album of the 2010s, and Every Time I Die is just a phenomenal, phenomenal band. So I will always root for the Butcher and the Blade.
As you should.
time I die.
Continue.
No, I'm just saying every time I die,
Okay.
like it's
Okay.
everybody dies.
Oh, I see. I see. That's beautiful, man. Oh, wow.
Honestly,
Also on this show, Lance Archer dumped a dude headfirst into a garbage can, so that was sick.
Oh, I saw that. That was phenomenal. That was great.
Yeah.
That was the coolest thing to have Jake the Snake be cutting a promo about Lance Archer, describing the carnage as Lance Archer is destroying three guys.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
so good.
But they done that a couple times already, didn't they? It was like they were in like a debris, they were in like a rundown house, and that was what's happening in the background while Jake was
Oh,
talking.
yeah. But this was more like, because those were like pre-recorded things. This was supposed to be like happening live. So Jake was cutting a promo like with an interviewer as Lance was just in the room throwing dudes into the ceiling. It was great. It was real great.
It was so good.
I hope those dudes got paid.
To see it live.
So, also on the show, we saw the debut of two new women entering the AEW roster, or at least on Dynamite, as Diamante took on Ivelisse in a one-on-one contest in which the former LAX member came out on top. Which, maybe it's just because I never watched TNA back when LAX was a thing in 2017, but I thought Ivelisse was winning this, and I was real shocked when she didn't.
Was the
Diamante
match
is pretty good.
The match was it was fine.
Oh.
I would say it's below average for a usual women's match in AEW, but it was whatever. And I was surprised Ivelisse was even there because I feel like she has a lot of like shit with a ton of people on the AEW roster. So good for her.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying when it was announced that she would be on. Is like she's had problems with pretty much every locker room she's been a part of. So the fact that they invited her over is really it's a bold move.
Like what?
Yeah, but maybe. I know. I mean, I don't know, but I know for a while the internet didn't like her because she made a comment about mental illness not being real.
Wow.
And she also, Jack Evans hates her. I know that much because he's very public
Angelico
about
hates
it on
her.
his Twitter. Yeah, yep. Former trios partners not getting along too well. So it's not the greatest,
That
but
sucks.
good. Maybe she's like different, or maybe other people are different, and everything's cool. I hope so. But this all leads us to our main event of AEW, which saw the Jurassic Express take on the Inner Circle. which a match I was excited for until I found out Jake Hager was one half of the Inner Circle in this match. Then it sort of sucked, but hey, what can you do?
Hey, Sammy Guevara came back.
Yeah, that's what I was bringing this up primarily to talk about, is the fact that at the end of the match, uh, it looked like Serpentico was hopping the barricade and was joining the Inner Circle as he helped to beat down the Lucha Express, or not Lucha Express, the Jurassic Express. And then, after a few seconds, Serpentico ripped off his mask to reveal it's not Serpentico. It is not John Cruz. Instead, it is Sammy Guevara making his return after some sensitivity training. So,
Did you catch the throwback call from Tony Schiavone?
what was that throwback call?
That's not Cyclope. That's not Cyclope.
Oh, did he? That's great.
Yeah, so, that was when Dean Malenko unmasked to reveal he was not Cyclope and beat down Chris Jericho. And so Serpentico takes off the mask, and that's not Serpentico! That's not Serpentico!
Beautiful.
It was great.
Yeah, sounds it. So, that was AEW from this past week. That was Dynamite from this past week. Good old show. I mean, it was honestly a much better Dynamite than I think we've been seeing in recent weeks. At least it was better in Fight for the Fallen. Much better than that. But we can move now on. We can move on now to SmackDown from just last night. I just have a few bullet points I want to go over, and I want to get through these as quick as possible. First up, makes sense now why Shinsuke and Cesaro were champions. Apparently Kofi Kingston's injured, and they needed to get the titles off of him. And so the story they're playing out on SmackDown now is Big E is the lone member of the New Day, with Kofi going home to rehab and Xavier Woods still being out of action. And now it's Big E's time to shine. And Kofi was trying to instill in him some confidence last night, saying, hey, dude, we've been saying this for years. Like, this is your time to take over. This is your time to shine. Don't wait a decade before you show these people your true value like I did. And so I think we're about to see a singles run for Big E, and I am so happy about it.
Me too. Get him that Universal Championship or the WWE Championship, whatever. They got it for Kofi. Let's get it for Big E.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Fight in the main event. I don't want to see him say, "Oh, now I'm a singles guy. I'm gonna go for this second grade title." No, I want to see him.
I mean, honestly, I'd be cool with him feuding with AJ for the Intercontinental title, even though it is secondary. That'd be cool.
He's already held the Intercontinental Championship.
I mean, yes, but wasn't that also when he was Dolph's bodyguard?
Yes, but I'm saying that establishes the credibility that he could compete for it again. Like, it'd be a good starting
point.
I
see. Yeah. That makes sense. And then, also, poor Unforgotten Sons. If that one dude had just kept his goddamn mouth shut, they would be champions right now. That is absurd. So absurd. But it is what it is. Again, it's just wrestling so dumb and weird. I love it. Nikki Cross won #1 contendership to fight Bayley for a second time because their first match at Horror Show was so good. So that's great. Grand Metalik won Intercontinental Championship contendership to fight AJ next week in a Fatal 4-Way. Fatal 4-Way match was very good. I was blown the fuck away that Grand Metalik won it, and I think it'll be fun to watch.
Oh, it'll be great. Yeah,
well, these two guys that was
a very good.
Sorry.
It was a very good Fatal 4-Way. It had 4 of some of my favorite guys in WWE right now, especially Drew Gulak. I'm a huge fan of Chad Gable because I refuse to call him by his other name. The whole Lucha House Party is so good. And Grand Metalik, I mean, didn't we have at least one match of the week where we went back and saw his stuff as Mascara Dorada?
Maybe you guys did. I'm pretty sure I wasn't here for it.
I don't think so
or
either.
Maybe I just watched it on my own. I don't know.
I think
but
so.
I've watched some Mascara Dorada myself, and he is so incredible, and he hasn't really been given too much of a chance to shine. So I think him versus AJ should be a great match.
The peak of his career was literally in his first few weeks when he made it to the finals of the Cruiserweight tournament. You know, it hasn't been much uphill since then, but it's cool. I'm excited for the match, and then we move on to the main event of SmackDown, where we saw Sheamus versus Jeff Hardy. who are two of my favorite wrestlers, unfortunately. And they fought in an Irish bar. They fought at Shannon's Irish Bar, to be more specific, in Orlando, Florida.
The bars
And
are closed, guys.
yes, but not for a contest like this. This was too big an occasion to shut down. So they went all out in a bar and in a bar restroom. And at one point, a toilet flushed. And then also, there were some barrels. And the match was bad. And then eventually, after like 10 minutes or 15 minutes of this bad match, Jeff Hardy got laid out on the ground, and somehow a hat ended up on top of his face, like covering up all his facial features. And Sheamus was like, "Oh, I finally won, fella. Let me have a beer." And then he drank a beer, and it looked like the show was gonna end. And then he was like, "Oh wait, I have to pin him still." So he walked out from behind the bar, and he was gonna pin Jeff Hardy. But then Jeff Hardy takes the hat off his face, and he has face paint on all of a sudden, and his eyes roll into the back of his head, and they go white. They go white as snow, and this new version of Jeff Hardy appears, and he brings it to Sheamus. He takes him down. Sheamus is lying on the floor. Jeff Hardy climbs to the top of some barrels, and then he splashes onto Sheamus for a victory before his eyes roll back into their normal color, and Jeff Hardy's
Willow is in WWE.
Yes.
I was about to say, I hope they don't bring back Willow.
Yes.
That's exactly what they're doing.
I believe this is Willow who has made their debut. But that was how SmackDown ended. So it was a great week in wrestling.
Isn't this
to say
actually
the least.
exactly just the finish they did for Extreme Rules Horror Show?
Pretty much.
I don't even remember Extreme Rules Horror Show.
It's just the Bray got thrown into the swamp and then came back as the.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
I mean, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Can I bring up at least a positive note to end the discussion of the week in wrestling on, though?
Yeah. I'd be more than happy to hear your positive note.
Motor City Machine Guns are back. They won the Impact Tag Team Championships in a really good match for the North. And we're going to get to see more of them from now on. And they already won the championship. And so they took on the Rascals at Slammiversary, and they won that match. And then they came out later that night and challenged the North on Impact. And then on Impact, they beat the North. And honestly, they've barely lost any speed whatsoever, despite the fact that their peak was in like 2009. So I am so excited to see what they're still going to be doing in the immediate future.
I mean, they were the ones.
They are one of the best tag teams ever, I might say.
Yeah, and they were the ones who sort of pioneered that style of tag team wrestling, which is non-stop action. That was not meant to be a reference to TNA. That was literally what I was about to say, but I didn't realize how. They literally pioneered that way of wrestling, which is tag moves into combos, into strikes, into interference, into like 30-second long tag sequences. Like right now people give like Young Bucks shit for doing that, but they were the ones who did it first, so I think it's cool.
Yeah, the Young Bucks are just like the natural, inevitable conclusion to that style that the Motor City Machine Guns created.
Yeah.
Everything we love about the fast-paced, indie-rific, cruiserweight tag team style of wrestling is from the Motor City Machine Guns. It all comes back to them, and to see them, back on the mountaintop, I'm so hyped for it. I'm so excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were in like a retirement tour for like 10 years or something.
No, it was just, Sabin split off and then did his own thing for a little bit. Shelley then tagged Kushida in New Japan, and then Sabin had injuries and went to Ring of Honor for a little bit, and then became a producer in Impact, and then Shelley did his little thing in NXT, and then they came back, and I believe they were booked to be the Machine Guns again for the TNA revival event on WrestleMania weekend, but obviously that never happened. So this is like their big actual return to being full-time competitors. And the thing is, I think they're like 39 and 37 respectively. Like in wrestling terms, they've still got a few years to go.
Oh, they still got at least until they're 58.
Yeah, so we can expect a lot more Motor City Machine Guns, and I'm very happy about that.
Oh, they also debuted a new move, Sam. Would you like to describe to our fans what the move looks like? The new
Our many
finisher?
fans.
I'm trying to remember which their new finisher was again. I remember
Dirt
they
bomb.
did.
Tiger,
yes.
I know you wanted to talk about Slammiversary. Were there any other matches or moments that you wanted to talk about?
I want to talk about the dirt bomb, which is the Motor City Machine Gun's new move, which is a 2-man one-winged angel. So, like, imagine the one-winged angel, but each man has one leg over their shoulder, and they do the one-winged angel.
Oh yeah, that move. That was actually pretty cool.
Anyway,
I got to give that to them. Also, Slammiversary was actually really good, and you should check it out.
I think Slammiversary was pretty good, except for like the women's battle royale. Like
that was not. But the match between Jordan Grace and Deonna Purrazzo was very good.
Yeah.
The main event match was very good as well, and we got the Good Brothers and EC3 and Eric Young, and Heath Slater and Rhino are maybe doing a tag run again, this time in Impact.
Mm-hmm.
Things are really looking up for Impact. They're this could be a very good show.
Heath Slater also debuted a new finishing maneuver, of course, the zigzag.
No, that was he used the same one he's always had. He's had this running neck breaker.
No, he used the
He's
zigzag
been using it was a neck breaker. He's been
up.
using a neck breaker since the beginning of his WWE run.
I'm pretty sure that was a zigzag that he hit on whoever came out when he was...
I am 95% sure that's a neck breaker.
Are you sure? He threw him into the corner, and the guy came back out. He hit him with a zigzag.
Yeah, no, that's the setup, because and then Slater runs and he grabs the neck, and it's a running neck breaker. It's not a standing one.
Guys, I've been hoping I could be able to transition into the match of the week at some point, because I really gotta piss. I gotta piss real bad.
Can you just go piss right now?
Yeah, I mean, we can pause. We're not live.
No, we can't pause, because I was hoping we could start match of the week.
We gotta get to the bottom of this. Or we gotta get to the bottom of it. We gotta see. You gotta tell us.
No, you gotta get to the bottom of this. I'm content in my...
Jacy, you gotta tell us if this was a zigzag or not. Or I'm streaming
Where
live.
is it?
I'm streaming.
Oh, goddamn.
Oh, we gotta watch this stream.
Join your stream. Let's see.
Oh, never mind. It's not in this video. It's the next video. He's Slater.
Looks blind.
Yeah, he... Oh, here we go. This guy,
Is
right?
it Jonathan Gresham?
No, it's not. It's not Jonathan Gresham. It's
Oh,
a foreign.
no, it's not at all.
It's a foreign heel.
No, I only saw him from behind.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
And he's very short, this man.
No, he's just one. He's just very tall. Okay, this move. Ready? What is that? Is that neck
That's
breaker?
a zigzag.
Oh, that's not what I saw.
That is
Also,
100% a zigzag.
That's a Russian leg sweep.
It's a very sloppy Russian leg sweep.
Or perhaps it's a pay dirt.
A pay dirt to the back of the head.
Okay. Do I have permission to piss and you guys can talk about Cesaro and Brodie Lee?
Now you have my permission to piss.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I was hoping I would never hear that ever.
Sam, now we gotta, just two of us now, we gotta talk about Claudio versus Brodie Lee.
That was a really good match, though.
Mm-hmm. I thought it started a bit slow.
Maybe a little bit, but, this is 2008. It's the first ever cage match in Chikara's history. So, I think they said at one point in the match neither man had been in a steel cage match before. So they were a little hesitant to use the cage to its full advantage to start. It starts with Brodie Lee intercepting Claudio as he's making his entrance to a Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel, which I didn't realize was his old entrance theme. I'm a huge Peter Gabriel mark.
Oh, okay.
So it's a lot of striking to begin with, but then again, Brodie Lee is a brawler, and Claudio Castagnoli is a technical wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, neither. I would say it would lend itself to Brodie Lee better, the steel cage, than Claudio, but neither one had really had experience in it at first.
Yeah.
So they're doing the punches and the strikes, the slaps. They start running the ropes a little bit. Couple people hit the cage. But I think within like the first 5 minutes, it really starts to take off quick.
Yeah, I think the point in which I really thought I picked up was when Claudio press slammed Brodie into the cage, just lifts this man up.
Yeah, that got an audible gasp out of me watching at home.
Yeah.
Much less the gasps out of the people in the crowd.
Like, Brodie Lee, obviously not a very tiny dude. So this was great. I like how the announcers covered for them whenever they were like sort of slow on the cage. They were like, oh, he's not sure if he's like. There's a point in which Brodie had both of his legs outside, but then when Claudio came up to meet him, he pulled back in, and it was weird. But the announcers were like, oh, he wasn't sure that if Claudio punched him, he would have fell out, he would have won, but then he would have been injured. Which was a good way to cover for that.
I did like that, although I would have personally gone with he's got to swing back in because if Claudio gets to him, it could jeopardize his chance to escape itself, so he's got to make sure that he's got a clear window.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they did with the first time that he swung his leg back in.
Yeah. And then there was later a spot in which they both were on top, and they both fell down and crouched themselves on the top rope.
That was a decent spot.
Yeah, that was cool.
There was some interference at one point that could have been completely eliminated, and it would not have changed the match whatsoever.
Yeah. Which I would have.
So I don't really know why they had that.
Well, I would have preferred if they just kept it between these two, because these two, I think, look strong. So you don't want somebody to come in to help these two men who already look strong to diminish from their own personal strength,
Yeah, I think the commentator said it was kind of tied into a story thing. One of them wanted to help Brodie Lee, but then the other one wanted to gain Claudio's favor.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I wouldn't have included that in the match, but it didn't take away from the fact that these guys were doing great power moves. They were throwing each other on the cage. It was a very athletic back and forth contest. At one point, Brodie Lee gets busted open real bad. He's got a crimson mask, and he's just pissing blood out of this cut on his forehead.
I don't know if it was intentional.
And I think that was I don't think he bladed. That looked unintentional just from the timing of it.
I just mean the spot that caused it to happen was a giant swing into the cage wall. I'm not sure if that was intentional. Was that a planned spot, or did he just fell too far out? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I know Brodie's sell was incredible.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was a sell or not.
Yeah, it looks gnarly. And for Chikara, which was supposed to be a family show, Chikara sure has a lot of hardcore stuff happening.
Well, then again, it is a cage match. It's their first cage match ever. It's the main event. I guess if you're gonna have hardcore stuff in your family-friendly promotion, it's gonna be in your main event cage match.
Yeah, that's fair. What do you think about the cage match? No submission in cage match.
No submission in cage match. I don't think that was part of the.
The commentator mentioned that submissions do not count, which plays into Brodie's.
Did he say they didn't count, or did he say that they just probably wouldn't be used except as a way to give them time to escape the cage? Because that's what I remember.
They say that pinfall counts, but submissions don't.
They did specify pinfall or escape the cage, but
Yeah.
I guess no one wants to see a cage match end in submission, honestly.
I mean, if my move is a submission move, I would like to tap him out regardless of what the stipulation is.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
fair. I mean, that's kind of Claudio's thing. He is Claudio Castagnoli is freakishly strong, but is a technical wrestler.
Yeah. Which then brings us to the incredible finish of this match.
Oh yeah, Claudio Castagnoli is climbing the cage. He has Brodie lead down, and he has a window to escape, but he decides against it. He climbs the cage, and as Brodie Lee gets up onto his feet, a spinning European uppercut from the top of the cage, to which Claudio pops right up afterwards. Absolutely incredible. And it was there that he transitioned into the Ricola bomb, I believe, in
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
I really think that the Ricola Bomb is a much better move than the Equalizer, the Neutralizer.
It is much better, yeah.
Like
The neutralizer is just like it's somewhere between a Styles Clash and a Gotch pile driver. It's a little awkward looking.
I think if they give him the choice, he probably would just do a power driver.
Although I'd love to see him bring back the UFO too. I'm not sure why. Maybe they just don't want him to have the UFO and the giant swing. Maybe they're saying like only give him one rotatey swingy move.
Who else
But
on the roster can do the UFO? I want to know who else they want to do the UFO.
Maybe Lashley could, I don't know, but it wouldn't fit his character. I'm just saying, like, WWE restricts people's movesets. Maybe they, for recognition's sake, they only want him to have one swingy move.
Lashley's already got a full Nelson. They can't give him another move that's that dangerous. Right?
Oh, I thought you were just going to say he's got the full Nelson. They can't give him any other moves. But it was a really good match. It was short. It was like 15 minutes, which for a cage match is, I would say, probably too short.
I think the best matches I've ever seen are like 22 minutes long, around 22 minutes.
Yeah, I think this match could have benefited from another 5 to 8 minutes. Because it felt quick, which isn't always a bad thing, but I felt like there was still so much more room to go up. So at this current stage, I mean, I'd give that match, I'd say a no BS 3.5 stars.
No, we're
Excuse you.
Excuse
you. Excuse you, Sam.
We're not
no
allowed.
longer doing star ratings. We have two options.
It is wrestling.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fair.
It is very much wrestling. It's a very good match. I don't know when JC came back, but at some point when I'm talking about this match, I guess.
I got back like probably 6 or 7 minutes ago. I've just been hanging out,
Oh, so I don't have to restate myself because you heard me.
Oh yeah, no, I heard everything after like I mean I was deep into the match when you guys came back, but what had happened? Something about a Ricola bomb. I don't know. Something happened.
Ricola. Oh, I should also
I would
perhaps mention that.
So,
yeah, go ahead, Sam.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I should probably also perhaps mention that the final Ricola bomb that he did is not a normal Ricola bomb. It is a Ricola bomb over the shoulders.
That's true as well as a variation. So I think it was a really good match. I think it could have benefited from a little bit more time. But especially if it is true that was both of their first cage match, then that was, for their first ever effort, that was pretty great. So I would give this match 2 thumbs up. Anyone should watch it.
What year was this match?
2008.
2008.
Okay, so this is like about a year or two removed from when he debuted with Oksana on SmackDown.
That was like 2010 or 11, I think.
Really? That wasn't 2000.
I mean, Cesaro at this point, he still had his balding hair as Claudio Castagnoli. He hadn't shaved bald yet.
Cesaro's theme song, first WWE's theme song, is amazing, and I would say it again and again.
I cannot find when he debuted. Wikipedia is normally much more helpful than this. Ooh, but I can use Wiki Wand, of course. Let's see what Wiki Wand has to say. Talking about Nigel McGuinness.
They look
Pro
very
Wrestling
similar.
Gorilla. Oh, he didn't start till 2011. What the fuck? I was way off.
Well, your memory sucks anyway, so.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, both of these guys were still pretty fresh into their careers at this point, and it was supposed, at least according to one of the commentators, both of their first cage match. So with that in mind, and the fact that it only went 15 minutes, really, really good match. Even without that in mind, really good match.
Fantastic. But is that all you guys got to say about this week's match of the week that I unfortunately didn't get the pleasure of watching?
I think.
Well, you can go back and watch it now that you have our recommendation.
Yes, I will if I have the time.
Uh,
If I get home from work this week, again I get out at 10 p.m. now, and currently again this week, so that'll be great. If I get home, it takes me about half an hour to get here. It's about 10:30 at night. I got to get up the next morning real early. If it strikes me, if I have that just passionate desire, it just hits me all of a sudden that I need to watch some wrestling right now, or I won't be able to fall asleep. That'll be the match. I promise you.
said no one ever.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Whatever works for you. Whatever works.
Oh yeah, no, I'm kidding too. I'm not watching this match.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I might watch it. Who knows? If I have so little interest in wrestling right now. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, guys.
Can we next
Oh.
next podcast? Can we talk about video games or something else?
I mean, I don't play those either. But
don't you play the?
What?
But you watch New Legacy.
Yeah, I watch them, but I don't play those games. I have Fire Pro. I definitely do have that. The last WWE game I bought, I think, was WWE 13 for the Xbox 360. That was a good
You
old.
haven't missed much ever since.
No, I'm aware.
No,
I
we
feel like I've.
played a game. Remember when we played as Shane Thorne and Big Dick Nick
Oh,
against HBK?
true.
We lost to the AI. Set on easy.
Yeah.
Couple times.
I remember how horribly awkward that experience was. It was after we had met during the fire drill at BBB, and you had invited me. Like, you guys showed up outside my door one day. Like, you, some girl, and a couple other guys just appeared outside my door asking if I wanted to hang out. And I was in the middle of recording another podcast that I do. And then I think it was either later that night after I finished recording, I went over, and I was cool with you, Tiger. I felt comfortable talking to you, but everyone else in the room I felt so bad about because they just didn't care in the slightest about wrestling.
They watched me play Fire Pro. They didn't even watch me play Fire Pro. I put Fire Pro on simulation, and they watched
Yeah.
the computer. And I just thought it was really funny that there's a room of people watching the computer play itself. I don't know. I didn't think about it. Really awkward.
But I made a comment too about how I wondered if people thought Naito was attractive, and the room got really quiet after that, and I felt horrible. And I wanted to kill myself. And then eventually, you made a New Legacy reference, and I was so afraid to ask whether or not you watched New Legacy, because if you didn't, it would just become even more awkward. But I'm glad I did, because I found out you were indeed an NL boy, and then our friendship was off to the races.
What was the New Legacy reference?
That's a real good question. I know this. I know for sure. It was a dual thing, I'm pretty sure. It was definitely a dual reference, but I don't know. I'll think on that. I'll get back to you with that. But it was an NL reference.
Oh, was it when I said I want to be Mr. 205?
Oh, I don't know how your memory works, Tiger, but I think you're right. It was. That's I don't even remember what that was in reference to NL. It was something with universe mode or something. That's crazy.
Yeah, Mr. 205. Jack, somebody whose name is now we cannot say because this person is it's not a good person.
Oh, true. Then with Sam meeting you, I have my Elias T-shirt to thank. So. I have a Velveteen Dream and Elias T-shirt.
Was it I thought you were wearing a Lucha Underground shirt the first time we met.
Maybe I definitely the first time you talked to me and you approached me, I was wearing an Elias shirt because it's one of my favorite T-shirts. It's the one like his first WWE shirt where it's like it's just a concert shirt, but it's with Elias. It's
Yeah.
incredible. I love it. And you were
I
like, "Oh,
know
I've
it
seen
was
you wear wrestling
in.
shirts before."
I knew it was in PSC 125.
Yeah, Professor Glenn Morgan. It was
The
incredible. That
best.
guy is great. Yeah.
Oh, he's the best. I wonder what he thinks of wrestling.
I wonder what happened to Elias.
I got hit by a car, I think.
He's
Unfortunately.
still walking. He
He
got
was
lost.
Is Tamatonga and Tangaroa no longer in New Japan?
Who even watches
No,
New
I think
Japan?
they
Oh,
are.
can we
I
talk
think
about
they
New
are.
Japan?
They're
Let's talk about
just.
New Japan.
You want to talk about New Japan?
Let's talk about
God
New
damn
Japan.
it! I want to. Okay. What about New Japan? What about New Japan? This is our final segment. Final segment on the show. This is not wrestling.
Oh, it's
This is
What
not.
do
the
we have to say about New
best.
Japan?
What happened in New Japan is that Master Kawato made his first in-ring debut, and of course, I've sent Master Kawato's debut video to the both of you, and I said this is the most important debut in recent history, which I'm sure
Yes.
both of you have watched that video. Sam,
And what
Yeah.
if I have?
nothing.
Well, I'm glad we could mention New Japan. That's my favorite segment of the show each week. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Main Stage Wrestling, usually on WERW Real College Radio. We'll hopefully be back next week with another edition of Main Stage if all our time and schedules and everything like that works out. Until then, though, goodbye, everybody.